Hello everyone, Ember here, and welcome back to a new video. In this one, I'd like to take a look at a whole bunch of cards that were revealed from the set Night Wanderer, which was officially revealed for Japan. So, Night Wanderer will feature Pachurant, Okidogi, Munkidori, and Vezendipity EX, and it released on Japan June 7th. So, we'll actually see basically all of this set pretty soon, actually. It'll be like late May, I'd imagine, we'll see the full set. So, we'll start to see reveals as the month progresses. So, yeah. Very cool. It will feature 64 cards before Secret Rares, and originally its trademark was discovered way back in September 2023. Now, the set name itself is a reference to Pachurant and the Loyal Three stealing Ogerpon's masks during the night. The story was featured in the Teal Mask DLC. So, yeah, Ogerpon and her various mask forms will feature in Twilight Masquerade, but none of this stuff will be in the Twilight Masquerade set. We actually have the full English set list now for Twilight Masquerade. So yeah, just a wee bit of news. So when will we see these cards in English? Well, that's that's a fun topic really, because we expect the cards from Night Wonder to become part of our special English set in August. That's what PokeBeach thinks, at least. Following Night Wonder, Japan will be getting a Stellar Miracle set, so that will feature the Terra Pokemon. Now, obviously, we still don't know if those leaks were real, but it won't be until next month, realistically, that we'll see if those leaks were true. So, we've got a bit of a while yet to wait. So, yeah, that's Stellar Miracle in July, featuring Stellar Terra Pokemon EX, including Terrapagos, that we just mentioned. Thus, Night Wanderer will be the last set to focus on the Teal Mask. Now, what's interesting about this is that we don't seem to be getting a big set in the West after like Twilight Masquerade until way after August. It would seem like we're getting a special set in August, but it doesn't look like we're actually getting a main set this summer, which is interesting. We'll have to wait on like more news and confirmation, but I've got a video talking about this in more detail that's coming out this weekend. So yeah, hold your horses for that one. But yeah, we've got the main cards from the set revealed because Japan likes to do this. They show off the headline Pokemon first. And we've got Okidogi X, Munkidori, Vezendipity, and Pachurant to take a look at. Now, I will actually start with Pachurant. We'll backtrack a bit because this card is pretty relevant to the deck itself. So Pachurant, being the leader, has the ability Chain of Command, which says once in your turn you may switch one of your benched Dark Pokemon, excluding any Pachurant EX, which is interesting. So it's just commanding your benched Dark Pokemon with your active Pokemon. If you do, your new active Pokemon is now poisoned, however, and you can't use more than one of these abilities per turn. Not that I think you would ever want to, but just a bit of a detail there. And its only attack, Irritating Burst, for 2 Dark Energy, does 60 damage times no prize cards your opponent has taken. So not really a super relevant attack, but if your opponent goes down to, say, 2 prize cards, you're actually doing 240, which is quite nice. And if they go down to 1 prize card, you will be able to swing for 300, which is quite impressive. So it does have some uses as an attacker with like EXP share or something. But yeah, definitely here for the ability. And the poison is relevant because, as we'll see with some of the other Pokemon, as well as an item that was revealed that we'll talk about, increases your poison Pokemon's attacks by plus 40, like their damage. So that's really cool. But we'll scroll all the way back up to Okidogi and just make our way down the list. So 250 HP, quite tanky. Not quite as tanky as Blood Moon Ursaluna, but still quite tanky. Has 2 attacks, Poison Muscle for 1 color, says search your deck for 2 basic Dark Energy, attach them to Okidogi, and then you poison yourself as a result. And then the attack for 2 Dark and a colorless, Crazy Chain does 130, and if it's poisoned, this attack does 260 instead, which is 270 with the poison, theoretically. So that's a lot of damage to be doing. Like, that is a huge amount of damage. And if we factor in the item that will increase your damage output, you're effectively doing 310, right? Because you're doing the 260 plus the tool card that will increase your damage by plus 40. That takes it up to 300. And then the poison will knock it to 310. So with a Radiant Sneasler, actually, that will go all the way to 330 and want to kill a Charizard, which is quite funny. So yeah, there's definitely ways that this is very, very playable. The first attack is kind of cool, but to be honest, you might just be better off not hoping that your opponent doesn't KO your Okidogi. If you go second, use this attack, maybe it's okay because your opponent is unlikely to be able to do 250 turn 2 of the game. But some decks like Chen Pao can do 250. Like it's not super rare, but it's not like the end of the world if you have to use a poison muscle like once per game. You can't really use it throughout the game though. It's a bit too slow. So what else do we have? Well, we have Dark Patch is like the best answer really, and we have Energy Sticker. And I would say if we had Dark Patch, Energy Sticker plus Raihan, I would say this could be quite viable. But if we are exclusively relying on just Energy Sticker and Dark Patch, then I have to wonder if you're going to just run out of resources way too quickly, even with stuff like EXP share, you know? It's a wee bit too slow and a wee bit too clunky without some extra support. So it's got me thinking that there might actually be some extra dark support in this set in the form of either a supporter that could attach like dark energy, a bit like Welder, or maybe we're getting like an ability on a stage 1 or a stage 2 that accelerates dark energy. Potentially, just food for thought. Yeah. Seems like a pretty cool card overall. Could definitely see this, seeing a whole bunch of play if we ever do get energy acceleration because it's a lot of damage to be doing, on a base egg. So it's impressive. Then we have this Monkey Dory EX, which has 210 HP, so a bit weaker. But it does have a very cool ability, Skip a Beat, which says, if this Pokemon is knocked out by damage from an opponent's attack, while you have a Peturant EX in play, your opponent takes one less prize card. So this effectively becomes a single prize Pokemon, which is even funnier if you factor in the A-Spec Hero's Cape, which you might want to play, because Hero's Cape will take this to a 310 HP one prize Pokemon if you have Peturant in play, which is I find quite funny. But yeah, its only attack, however, for 2 Darkina colors, Dirty Headbutt does 190, and during your next turn, this Pokemon can't use Dirty Headbutt. So yeah, it's a wee bit awkward, but you still have synergy with the TMs. Like if you wanted to swing for 190 and then use TM Devolution, for example, and like de-evolve your opponent's Charizard, that could be quite funny. But yeah, I still think that if we ever get Dark Energy Acceleration, this could be quite good. But as it stands in like a Peturant Okidogi deck, I'm not sure if you actually need Monkey Dory, just because the attack is still a bit too awkward. If we're paying 3 Dark Energy and we don't have reliable ways of accelerating it yet, I'd much rather sink my resources into charging up this guy. But yeah, it's still a cool card though. Might see some play. Then we have Pheasantipity, which is kind of like a fusion of 2 cards, really. The Cramorant V, funnily enough, from like Sword Shield base set, as well as, was it Sword Shield base set? I'm not sure, actually. But yeah, the Cramorant V and Oricorio GX. So the ability to take advantage is quite cool. It says if one of your Pokemon was KO'd during your opponent's last turn, you may draw 3 cards, and you can't use more than one of these per turn. So that's still really cool. It's some very nice, helpful support in a single prize deck. Also, only having a retreat cost of 1 is really nice for a skateboard, like, is it called a skateboard? It's like a skateboard or rescue board with a Tatsuguri. Could be quite nice. So you have a lot of synergy there. I think this is quite cool, honestly. Just the extra draw 3 is really nice for rare candy decks. So yeah, definitely think this will see play in some single prize decks. Seems really cool. And the attack Cruel Arrow for 3 colors does 100 damage to one of your opponent's Pokemon, which admittedly isn't super impressive, but you're not really playing this for the attack. You're definitely more focusing on the ability, but it's still a very cool ability. And it's interesting to me that Oricorio was really good in like the Welder format, just for like finding resources and finding more energy and things like not energy spinner, but Fire Crystal, I should say, like ways of just putting energy back into the hand to use Welder, which is, it's got me wondering, could we see a dark type Welder in this set? I mean, maybe. I mean, it could be possible, right? We could see one, but yeah. I'm not sure if I'm ready for another Welder, but yeah. Pheasantipity, though, it's a cool card. And we talked about Peturant, but yeah, basically you want to be using this to set 4 of your Okidogis to make them poisoned and stuff. But yeah, it's a cool card, though. I definitely see a bunch of play, which is cool. Then we have a really funny Kyurem. Now, why this Kyurem is really funny is it has the ability Anti-Plasma. It says if your opponent has a card with Colress in its name, so, Colress Experiment, in their discard pile, the attack cost of this Pokemon's Trifrost is colorless instead. And Trifrost for 3 metal, no, that's a wrong translation, 2 metal, 2 water, and a colorless, says discard all energy attached to this Pokemon, and this does 110 damage to 3 of your opponent's Pokemon. and obviously you don't apply weakness and resistance for a bunch of Pokemon. So this is definitely supposed to be a big Lost Zone counter to go along with the Jirachi. Now, truth be told, I'm not sure if Lost Zone is actually seeing enough play to warrant this being like a great card or anything. However, if Lost Zone ends up being really, really good again, then yeah, this seems legit. Now, of course, this does have the uncanny thing where your opponent could just play Manaphy in a Lost Zone deck, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, wait, I'm only doing 110 for a single energy, which still isn't terrible, but it's not great, and you're probably never playing more than one of these in the list. But if you're taking like a 3-prize turn, then it's probably still worth it. But yeah, it's a very funny card. It's also just strictly good against maybe like stage 2 Red Candy decks that are playing Colorless Experiment, like dig for Red Candy. Could be quite good against them, just snipe a bunch of Charmanders or whatever. But yeah, Triforce seems legit. I kind of wish it was. I kind of hope we get a Colress Pokemon that basically says if you have a Colress in your discard pile, then this attack does X, Y, Z. Not that we need any more Lost Zone buffs, but it would be cool to see like the other side of this card. If that makes sense. Like if this is the anti Colress, I would like to see a pro Colress, really. But yeah, it's still a really cool card though. Definitely think this could see a lot of play if Lost Zone ever takes off in a huge way. But yeah, sniping 3, well, this is 110 damage, is just perfect for Cramorant. So yeah, very, very cool card. Then we have Binding Mochi, which is listed as a tool card here. So I'm assuming, yeah, so it's got the text. I've for some reason thought this was an item initially, but yeah, it's got the text box for a tool card. This attacks of this poison Pokemon this card is attached to plus 40 damage to your opponent's active Pokemon before applying weakness and resistance, which is also, we can just scroll down a bit to see Colress Tenacity. So yeah, that's really cool of a tool card that just essentially buffs poison damage. Now, really cool because Cloth isn't quite doing a lot of damage, right? Cloth is sitting there doing, 190, 200 with a poison. Now with a Binding Mochi, you can do 240. But why this card is also really cool, not just for like the Okidogi and stuff, or like the Walking Wake EX, this card is still really cool to me because it kind of introduces the concept of maybe Brute Bonnet has to be reevaluated. Like, what if we put Brute Bonnet in our deck with Booster Capsule? We put 1 or 2 of these in play, like maybe 1 the active or something, and we just start swinging. We're effectively adding plus 40 damage, plus the 50 from plus the 10 from poison. Sorry. So it's effectively a plus 50 modifier when you've done all the maths, which is quite appealing, actually. Like, maybe is there ever like, I'm trying to think of like how to phrase this. Is there ever a world where players put Brute Bonnet with a booster capsule in their deck and make space for this tool card to get the plus 50 modifier? I'm just thinking because there's a couple of like smaller, especially rogue and budget decks that I'm thinking of that don't really do quite enough damage. They're just a wee bit too short. Like Dondozo comes to mind, but Dondozo is a bad example because it's basically just worse Cloth. But yeah, no. Decks kind of like that, I guess. Or, weird toolbox, luminous energy style decks where you're just not quite doing enough damage to be good enough to play in standard. This could tip the balance, right? Plus 50 damage is a lot. And it could start turning 3-hit KOs into 2-hit KOs, or even 2-hit KOs into 1-hit KOs, potentially. So yeah, I think this card could be really, really good, actually. I'd have to look at all the Pokemon again in Standard, really, and just, reevaluate Brute Bonnet, because, yeah, I think this could be really legit. Really, really legit. So yeah, that's cool. Also, we have Colress's Tenacity, I think it's called. It says, search your deck for a Stadium and enter your card, reveal them, and put them into your hand, which is got synergy for Neutral Center, which is a broken card that we'll talk about in a second, but we'll just ignore that one because this card is still really good, actually. Like, we rarely see support for Stadiums and just being able to find them in the first place. And as someone who really likes Stadiums, and I like to mess around with them in GLC a lot now as well, I think this card is really, really cool. It's also just funny because it's supposed to be like the pairing to this Kyurem, but of course everyone knows that this is an anti-Lost Zone Kyurem. This is anti-Colress Experiment, not really anti-Colress Tenacity, but if Tenacity ends up being played in a lot of different decks, then yeah, maybe Kyurem could also see play there. But yeah, very, very cool card otherwise. And we also have this Stadium Neutral Center, which in my opinion is pretty bananas. So it's the first A-Spec Stadium ever printed, which is cool. So it's effectively a Prism Stadium. It says prevent all damage done to Pokemon that don't have Roboxes by attacks from your opponent's Pokemon EX and Pokemon V. You heard that correct. It's just 0 damage. You don't take any damage. However, if this card is in your discard pile, it can't be put into your deck or hand. So your opponent has to discard this with like a Lost Vacuum or their own Stadium, and you never get access to your Ace Spec ever again. However, I think this Stadium will win games, right? There will be times where your opponent has maybe, let's say, one Lost Vacuum in their list, and maybe you play other Stadiums yourself as well, right? So you win the Stadium War, you get rid of their Stadiums with your own other Stadiums. They then play a Lost Vacuum or something, or they end up discarding it. Maybe they prize it even, or they, just have to play it regularly to move a tool card that's good. Then you put this into play, and you're effectively saying, oh yeah, my single prize deck now doesn't give up any prize cards. That seems really, really good. Now, of course, it's relying on your opponent, not just timing their Lost Vacuum or their own Stadium really well, and you're hoping they're not playing enough Stadiums to counter this. But this honestly seems really, really good in the right situation, and also quite scary in Snorlax. just a wee bit scary in Snorlax. If your opponent, if you get rid of all their resources and then you just put this in play, and all of a sudden your Snorlaxes don't give up any, prizes, that's a wee bit scary. But you can also find it with Colress Tenacity, which is a buff and a nerf, because this Colress can obviously find other Stadiums that will counter this Stadium, which is cool. But you'll still be able to find Neutral Center with Colress Tenacity. So a very, very, very cool card in my opinion. I definitely think this will see at least some play. Honestly, if this card ends up being used in a big way, or we get some really good single prize decks, then maybe players will have to start playing a lot more Stadiums in their decks anyway to counter it, because that's a very strong effect. Just no damage, pretty big. So yeah, very, very good Stadium. The Colress is kind of cool. Binding Mochi, I think, is a lot better than some people think, just because it's opening the door to a whole new engine, I guess. Not really an engine, but a way of modifying damage in the form of Brute Bonnet, which is cool. We also have the Kyurem for Lost Zone counters. Peturant seems kind of cool, I guess. Pheasantipity seems legit in a lot of single prize decks, but I guess Peturant's more of a... Yeah, Peturant definitely seems pretty good in either a Okidogi deck or just any deck that wants to, I guess, take advantage of Irritating Burst. But either way, it seems like a pretty good card. And then Munkidori definitely needs some Dark-type energy acceleration, and Okidogi seems pretty good. So yeah, those are the reveals today. Let me know what you think about the new cards, especially that last Ace-Spec Stadium that seems really, really good. Probably means we'll see at least one more Ace-Spec Stadium, hopefully. But yeah, it's been our power. Let me know what you think down below. And yeah, thank you for watching.